A roofer steps back for a better angle, forgetting the edge is just behind him. A ground worker guides a reversing truck with his voice, but the driver can't hear him over the engine's roar. A young apprentice reaches into a trench to grab a dropped tool, not seeing the soil begin to crumble. An electrician assumes a breaker is off because the switch is flipped. A crane lifts a steel beam, and below it, workers carry on with their tasks, unaware of the shadow passing over them. These are not dramatic scenes from a movie. These are quiet, everyday moments on job sites all across the country. And far too often, they are the final moments of someone's life. My purpose here is not to scare you. This message is for everyone. The newest laborer, the project manager in the site office, the HSE professional writing the safety plan, a supervisor leading a crew, the person swinging the hammer. We are going to look at 5 of the most common mistakes that result in fatalities on construction and industrial sites. These are not freak accidents or acts of fate. They are predictable, preventable events that happen with tragic regularity because simple rules are ignored. The goal is simple: to make sure you go home at the end of your shift, and to ensure your co-workers do the same. The hazards we will discuss are well known, and the controls to manage them are proven to work. They are written into regulations, like those from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. For a very good reason, they save lives. This isn't about more paperwork or slowing down the job. It's about building a professional respect for the work and for the people who do it. It's about recognizing that the most important thing you build every day is a safe path home. We will break down each mistake. We will identify the hazard in clear terms. We will look at a simple example of how it happens. And most importantly, we will outline straightforward controls that prevent it from happening. There are no complex theories here, just practical, on-the-ground facts every person on a job site must understand and apply. The tone here is calm and it is firm. The time for learning these lessons is now, not after the emergency call has been made. Let's get to work. Falls are the #1 killer in construction. It's a stark fact we cannot afford to forget. The hazard is simple: gravity. Anytime you're working at an elevation, a single misstep, a moment of imbalance, a failure of the surface you're on. This happens on rooftops, on scaffolding, near unprotected floor openings, from aerial lifts. A worker might think, "I'll just be up here for a minute," deciding that putting on a harness is too much trouble, or a temporary guardrail is removed to land materials and never put back. These small decisions create deadly opportunities. The controls are direct and non-negotiable. OSHA Standard 1926.501, fall protection required at 6 feet in construction. First line of defense: eliminate the fall hazard if possible. If you can't, use passive systems like guardrails. Guardrails must have a top rail, a mid-rail, and a toe board. Where guardrails aren't feasible, use a personal fall arrest system, a full-body harness, and a connector, a lanyard or lifeline. Anchor points must be rated to support 5,000 pounds per worker attached. Inspect your harness before each use for wear or damage. Use the correct lanyard type and length so you don't strike the level below. Training is not optional. Every worker must know how to inspect, don, and use fall protection. Supervisors must enforce 100% tie-off, without exception. No task is worth risking a fatal fall. If you're at height, you are protected, period. This isn't about trust or experience. Even the most seasoned iron worker can lose their balance like a new apprentice. The solution is a system that works whether you're having a good day or a bad one. Look at your site. Are all leading edges guarded? Are all floor holes covered and secured? Is every person in a lift or near an edge wearing and using their fall arrest system correctly? If any answer is no, stop work until it's corrected. This is a line that can never be crossed. Every day on a job site, cranes hoist excavators, lift enormous weights, and move them overhead. The hazard is a struck-by event, one of the most violent and unforgiving incidents possible. A load can fall due to rigging failure. A load can fall due to mechanical malfunction. A load can fall due to operator error. A load can also swing unexpectedly, striking a person and crushing them against another object. Workers on the ground can become complacent, treating the area under a lift as just another part of the site. They might walk under a suspended beam to get a tool, or take a shortcut, placing themselves directly in the line of fire. This is a gamble no one can afford to take. The primary control is to establish and enforce an exclusion zone. This is a clearly marked area under the load and within its swing radius. No one should be inside this zone while a lift is in progress. The zone should be physically demarcated with barricade tape, cones, or fencing. Make it physically obvious where the danger area is. The signal person, in constant communication with the crane operator, is responsible for ensuring this zone remains clear. Furthermore, every lift requires careful planning. A critical lift plan should detail the weight of the load, the capacity of the crane, the rigging configuration, and the intended path of travel. This isn't just paperwork, it is a critical thinking exercise to identify all potential risks before the load ever leaves the ground. Taglines, which are ropes attached to the load, should be used to help control its movement and prevent it from swinging or spinning. This gives ground personnel control over the load's orientation from a safe distance outside of the exclusion zone. Never use your hands to position a suspended load. Supervisors and operators must lead this effort. Before any lift begins, a pre-lift meeting should be held with the entire team involved: the operator, the rigger cell, the signal person, and any other affected personnel. Confirm the plan, check the signals, and walk the path. If the load path crosses an active work area or walkway, all work in that area must cease, and personnel must be moved to a safe location until the lift is complete. The best practice is straightforward. Never place yourself in a position where the only thing between you and a multi-ton load is a piece of wire rope. Respect the lift zone. Section 4, Mistake 3, Unmanaged Traffic. Mixing people and heavy machines. A construction site is a constantly moving environment. Dump trucks, excavators, loaders, smaller utility vehicles. These vehicles are in constant motion, often in reverse. Workers are on foot, focused on their tasks. The hazard is a collision between a pedestrian and a piece of mobile equipment. The consequences are almost always severe or fatal. Vehicle reversing is especially dangerous. Operator blind spots are largest during reversing. Workers can be distracted, wearing headphones, or simply in the wrong place. This chaotic mix is a recipe for disaster if it is not actively managed. The solution is a formal traffic management plan. A site-specific plan separates people from moving equipment as much as possible. Site layout graphic: green pedestrian walkways, yellow vehicle routes, red no-ped zones. Designate and clearly mark pedestrian walkways. Keep them separate from haul roads and vehicle lanes. Where paths must cross, use designated crossing points. Use physical barriers, concrete blocks, to protect walkways that run alongside vehicle routes. This isn't a suggestion. It is a fundamental design for a safe site layout that prevents interaction between foot traffic and heavy iron. Beyond separating paths, the plan must manage the interactions that are unavoidable. Every single piece of heavy equipment must have a functioning backup alarm. However, alarms can become part of the background noise on a busy site, so you cannot rely on them alone. For reversing maneuvers in congested areas, or where the operator's view is obstructed, a trained spotter is required. The spotter's only job is to watch the path of the vehicle and stay in constant communication with the operator, either through hand signals or radio. Everyone on site must also wear high-visibility clothing as a baseline requirement. Leadership must ensure the plan is followed. Set and enforce strict site speed limits. Prohibit the use of personal cell phones. Conduct Toolbox talks specifically on the traffic plan, blind spots, and communication protocols. The operator of the equipment and the workers on the ground share a mutual responsibility to maintain awareness. Operators must always confirm their path is clear, and workers must never assume an operator sees them. The best practice is to always make positive eye contact with an operator before approaching their machine. Assume you are invisible until you know you are seen. Section 5. Mistake 4. The silent collapse. Entering unprotected trenches. Of all the hazards on a job site, a trench collapse is one of the most terrifying and least survivable. The danger is the immense weight of the soil. 1 cubic yard of soil can weigh as much as a car. When an unprotected trench wall fails, it collapses in seconds, giving a worker inside virtually no time to react or escape. Death is often from suffocation or the crushing force of the dirt. This mistake happens when crews are in a hurry or when they misjudge the stability of the soil. A worker might jump into a 7-foot trench just for a minute to lay a pipe or take a measurement, believing the walls will hold. This is a fatal assumption. OSHA's standard on excavation and trenching, 1926 Subpart P, is extremely detailed for a reason. It mandates that any trench 5 feet deep or greater must have a protective system. The main types of protective systems are sloping, shoring, and shielding. Sloping involves cutting the trench walls back at a safe angle so they cannot collapse. Shoring uses supports like hydraulic jacks and timbers to hold the trench walls in place. Shielding involves the use of a trench box, a heavy-duty structure that workers can stand inside, which protects them from a collapse but does not prevent the collapse itself. The choice of system depends on soil type, depth, and site conditions. A competent person must be on site to oversee all excavation work. This is a trained and knowledgeable individual who can identify existing and predictable hazards, classify soil types, and has the authority to take prompt corrective measures. This person must inspect the trench and the protective systems at the start of each shift, after any rainstorm, and any time conditions change. They must also ensure there is a safe way to get in and out of the trench, such as a ladder or ramp, positioned so that a worker never has to travel more than 25 feet laterally to reach it. Never allow anyone to enter an unprotected trench. Keep heavy equipment, spoils piles, and other materials at least 2 feet back from the edge of the excavation to avoid putting extra pressure on the trench walls. Before work begins, locate all underground utilities to prevent a catastrophic strike. The best practice is absolute. No protective system, no entry. It does not matter if the trench will only be open for an hour. It does not matter if the soil looks solid. The rules exist because appearances can be deceiving, and the cost of being wrong is a human life buried under tons of earth. Section 6. Mistake 5. The invisible killer. Working on energized equipment. Electricity is silent, invisible, unforgiving. The hazard is contact with an energized circuit electrocution, severe burns, and arc flash explosion. This mistake often happens due to a simple, false assumption. A worker thinks equipment is off because a switch was thrown or a breaker turned off. They go to work on a motor control panel wiring system and find the power is still on. This can happen because someone re-energized the circuit energy stored in capacitors. The wrong breaker was opened. The control is a formal energy control procedure. Lockout, tagout, LOTO. OSHA 1910.147. It's a physical system that prevents accidental re-energization. The process is deliberate. First, shut down using normal controls. Next, locate the energy isolating device and move it to off. Place a personal lock on the device. Attach a tag identifying who is working. Most critical, verification. After lock and tag, attempt to start the equipment. Test before you touch. The ON button should do nothing. Use a voltage tester. It should read 0. Only after you verify 0 energy is it safe to begin. Each person must apply their own lock. 2 people, just 2 locks. Never work under another person's lock. When work is done, follow the reverse procedure. Remove tools and replace guards. Remove your own lock and tag. Only you may remove them. This removes assumption and replaces it with certainty. It ensures that you, and only you, control the energy source. Best practice: lock, tag, and test. Every time. On every piece of equipment. Without this discipline, you gamble with your life every time you open a panel or reach for a wire. Section 7. Conclusion. Leadership is the ultimate control. We have looked at 5 common, lethal mistakes. Falls without protection, standing under loads, mixing people and vehicles, entering bad trenches, working on live equipment. For each one, the controls are simple, known, and effective. Guardrails, harnesses, exclusion zones, lift plans, traffic management spotters, trench boxes, shoring, lockout, tagout procedures. These are not suggestions. They are the fundamental building blocks of a safe job site. Having these tools and rules is one thing. Using them consistently is what truly matters. This is where leadership becomes the ultimate control. Safety is not the sole responsibility of the HSE department. Foreman, superintendent, project executive. When a leader walks past an unprotected edge and says nothing, they are sending a clear message that production is more important than safety. When a supervisor tells a worker to just jump in the trench for a second, they are personally ordering a deadly risk. Your actions and your inactions set the true standard for what is acceptable on your job site. Enforce the rules. Do it fairly and consistently for everyone. Reward workers who identify hazards and speak up. Support anyone who exercises their right and responsibility to stop work when they see a life-threatening condition. Use near-miss reports not as a tool for blame, but as an invaluable opportunity to learn and improve your systems before someone gets hurt. Conduct regular site inspections with the specific goal of finding these 5 killers before they can claim a victim. Daily planning budget conversations. The responsibility is shared, but it starts at the top. Guidance resources standard of professionalism. Make that standard an unwavering commitment to their well-being. The hazards are real, but they are manageable. The controls are simple, but they require discipline. Your leadership is the force that turns written plans into life-saving actions. Make it count. Stay alert, stay secure, stay alive.